What's up, sons? It's Blind Rod with Son of a Tech, and I have another video covering the RTX 5080 for you. Rigel released official support for the 50 series, and along with Xelis hash support, we also got a much more consistent overclocking capability. So let's go ahead and dive in. As you may recall, our highest overclocking capabilities on the RTX 5080 for memory was a plus 1200 MHz memory offset. While locking the memory clock is still not possible with Rigel Miner, I was able to crank the memory offset clock to plus 3000 MHz memory offset, which reports as a total clock of 17,801 MHz in the software. This resulted in major improvements to hash rate for most algorithms that utilize memory. On the core side of things, it is possible to lock the core and set an offset similar to previous generations. That being said, there was no real performance gain over just setting the clock locked. The big deal here is a massive drop in power at the wall and in software over utilizing Afterburner. Let's jump into the results. Covering Xelis hash first, since this is the first time we have had the ability to mine it, the RTX 5080 at stock settings saw a hash rate of 60 kilohash a second at 232 watts for an efficiency of 0.25 kilohash a second per watt. While this is impressive in and of itself, it gets much better with overclocking. The first thing I did was max out our memory overclock with a plus 3000 MHz memory offset. This resulted in going well above 70 kilohash a second, but did increase the power slightly to 247 watts. But that is okay because I had not tuned in the core yet, and it was still more efficient than stock. Testing out the core clocks intensively, I found you could turn the core down to 1700 MHz and lock it for the best results. Keeping the memory overclock stated, the RTX 5080 achieves 71 kilohash a second at 173 watts at the wall for an efficiency of 0.41 kilohash a second per watt. This is already more efficient than all CPU and GPUs recorded on hashrate.no, but becomes more impressive if you compare the 150 watts reported in the software, resulting in 0.47 kilohash a second per watt. There was some pushback with initial results that the CMP170HX was more efficient, with some users achieving 70 kilohash a second at 160 watts in the software. But after overclocking, it is clear that the RTX 5080 is currently the efficiency king of Xelis hash v2. Fish hash, on the other hand, is struggling on the RTX 5080 right now. Even while overclocking the memory 3000 MHz and setting the core to a locked 2100 MHz, it was mining at 74 megahash a second at 186 watts for an efficiency of 0.39 megahash a second per watt for a 33% gain in efficiency over stock. This is also an 8% increase in efficiency over previous overclocks. However, the RTX 5080 falls short of most other newer GPUs and some old ones like the BC250. As stated previously, this is the best card I have ever tested on Autolico's V2. With more overclocking capabilities, I am happy to report that the RTX 5080 is now beating the CMP170HX on Ergo. I was able to do this by setting memory offset to plus 3000 MHz and locking the core to 1700 MHz, resulting in a 331 megahash a second at 160 watts at the wall, giving an efficiency of 2 megahash a second per watt for a 59% increase in efficiency over stock. If you compare this to hashrate.no, it's already impressive. But if you consider the software reading is now only 150 watts, the efficiency is 2.2 megahash a second per watt, which places it firmly in first place, taking over the CMP170HX, which is a mining-only GPU. Compounding this with its superior temperatures and the resale ability of the RTX 5080, it is my new favorite choice for Ergo mining. Of course, I had a look at Progpow again, and it was disappointing but acceptable. That being said, I did end up only needing to bump the locked core clock a tad to 2100 MHz locked and utilize the 3000 MHz overclock on the memory. This resulted in 55.2 megahash a second at 245 watts for an efficiency of 0.22 megahash a second per watt, which was a 50% increase over stock. This was also a 25% increase in performance over previous results. Finally, I did take a look at ETH hash for comparison. Utilizing these same overclocks as Autolycos, the RTX 5080 was mining at 110 megahash a second at 194 watts for an efficiency of 0.56 megahash a second per watt. Even taking into account software here, we show 0.64 megahash a second per watt, which it cannot compete with the CMP170HX. But do we really care? The CMP170HX cannot compete with the ASICs, so it's sort of a wash. Overall, I am excited for the future of the 50 series GPUs for mining. GDDR7 is a cooler, more affordable version of HBM with more support for the RTX 5080 continuing to improve the results. I am excited to see the future. Let me know what you think in the comments, and I will see you next Tuesday.